Guest with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast here on the telephone. Go ahead and give me a brief introduction on yourself, my friend. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, James, I'm sorry.
I said, give me an introduction. We're waiting to hear all about you, my friend. The audience is waiting with bated breath to find out who we're talking with today here.
Bated breath. Well, my name is Dennis Feece, and I'm an author. My most recent novel is Love, Pride, and Murder, and as the title suggests, it's a murder mystery. It takes place in. I'm going to give you the book first, and then I can give you some details about my own person.
Fantastic.
Maybe if that's a good way to do it. So the novel is about a private investigator who operates out of New Hampshire. His office is in Concord, but the actual story itself, he travels throughout New Hampshire up into the northern parts and down to the south and actually into Massachusetts for a little bit. And he's pursuing a case that was brought to him by a young lady who also lives in New Hampshire. And she had a fiancé who was killed in an accident, seemingly an automobile accident. She doesn't believe it was an accident, and she's having him investigated. All of the police investigations and all the rest of it suggested that it was simply an accident as such. But again, she doesn't believe it. She doesn't think that her fiancé could have had the accident the way it was portrayed in the investigation. So they begin, and I say they because he involves her in the mystery, which is sort of the way it's written, with his friends and some of the people he meets along the way helping him to pursue the case, which is his way of doing things, which is very, very unusual, I think, but it works well, I believe. Anyway, it travels down the Platte trying to help the young lady find the answers to her questions, and it ends being solved. It's not one of those mysteries that sort of hangs out there. It has a solution, but it does have a little bit of a surprise at the end, a twist. So anyway, that's a novel, and hopefully that's intriguing enough that someone is going to be interested in reading it.
Fantastic.
As far as me personally, I have, let's see, this is my second novel. The first one was written a few years ago, and it wasn't a mystery. It was not a genre piece. It was had more of a spiritual bent to it, I guess. I've been writing most of my life, not necessarily novels, but some short stories, some poetry, odds and ends, writing in the business world. That's how I earn my living over the course of the years. Let's see, what else do you want to know?
We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live here, coast to coast and border to border on iHeartRadio today. Dennis Feece is with us. He has got Love, Pride, and Murder. It is a fantastic, fantastic read, and he joins us here on the telephone. So, tell us a little bit about why mystery books are still quite popular.
Well, I think that's a tricky question, because a lot of times popularity sort of dictates what is popular. There's that sort of falls together. And mysteries right now are all over the place. It's hard to find a bookstore or an online seller that doesn't showcase mysteries. I think it's probably with the possible exception of political information right now this year anyway, it's probably the most frequently sought after by people who like fiction anyway. But the larger answer to the question is, I think it comes out of, incidentally, my educational background is psychology and theology, so some of my answers are going to be swayed in that direction. Hopefully that's not too much, but anyway, I think that people look for, they look to have answers in the future. I think it's part of the human psyche that we look to the future and try to anticipate what's going to happen based upon what's happened to us in our past and who we are as a person. And I think that's hardwired in people. And so mysteries satisfy that urge in a fictional kind of way. People who read mysteries tend to follow the plot line and try to guess what's going to happen next. And there's something that's very satisfying about that. And then when it's resolved at the end of the story, they've either guessed well or not, and either way it works for them. Now part of that is why I read mysteries, but I suspect that that's probably true for a lot of people.
We have got Dennis Feece with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast, coast to coast, border to border on iHeartRadio today. Also, AMFM247.com. Tune in, iTunes. You can find us on TalkShoe as well for on-demand archive audio. Love, Pride, and Murder is an entertaining novel, the kind that readers can just lose themselves in and shut the world out. We have got the author with us today. Dennis Feece joins us live. So, Dennis, tell us a bit about your writing process for this incredible book.
The process. I wrote this one during the pandemic, so that's part of it. When you're sitting at home, scratching your head and wondering what you're going to do next, you tend to, or at least I did, you take care of all those projects at home, and then you're left with either watching Netflix or rereading a lot of books you have sitting on your shelf, or trying to find something else. And I'd been putting off writing this novel for a while, and I had no more excuse. I had plenty of time on my hands, so I just started writing it. And so the process has at least the way I do it, is I begin with an idea, and the idea has been floating around in my head for a while, and then I sort of flesh it out a little bit. I have a character, a main character. In this particular case, it is first person, so it's the private detective is the narrator of the story. And I come up with a plot line, and I'm doing all of that as I go. I'll write 2 or 3 pages every day, usually in the morning, and then for the rest of the day I'll be thinking about what's going to come next, and I sit down and start out with a couple of sentences to point me in that direction, and then it just kind of flows from there. I usually don't know exactly how it's going to progress. I do know what the ending is going to be. That usually comes along with how it starts. I kind of know what I want to end up saying, but the process along the way, I sort of let the story tell itself in a logical kind of way. So how I do it, anyway.
We have got Dennis Feece with us today. He joins us live. Love, Pride, and Murder is the latest from him, and he joins us this week here on our big program. So this book, incredibly well written. Take me through your writing process. Do you use notes? Do you have an outline? How does this all work?
Well, as I said, the book, I don't use an outline. I write notes usually as I'm approaching the actual art, if that's not too grand an expression of writing, but putting pencil to paper, or in my case using a word processor, I make it happen. I don't really think it through ahead of time, and that it's not like writing a paper of some kind or writing a proposal or whatever it might be. It's fiction, so you just kind of make it up as you go. At least that's how I do it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So what do you want readers to take away from your writing, Dennis, of this incredible new book?
Well, if they can enjoy it. I wrote it so that it could be enjoyed. For me, reading mysteries has always been just sort of the fun kind of reading. There's a lot of stuff that you have to read during the workday and things that you have to read, if you're going to school or whatever. But mysteries are fun, and so I wanted it to be that. I wanted people to read it, enjoy it, and the reason for that, why I thought that was so important, is because, first of all, that's what draws people. I think it certainly does me, and all the people that I know that are readers. It's whatever they enjoy, and in a mystery, the problem is that sometimes they become almost like a formula. You have mysteries that are based on a sleuth who is very rational, and he or she can figure things out ahead of time and sort of explore whatever it is they're thinking, and it follows a process that is predictable. And by the time you're halfway through the novel, you kind of know what's going on, and you know where he's going or she's going, and it loses its flavor. And then there's the other kind where the person who's the detective or the policeman or the amateur sleuth or whatever it is trying to extricate him or herself from some kind of a situation, and they solve the murder along the way, or whatever it happens to be, usually a murder. That's not the way this is written, because I think that those kinds of books are so predictable that they lose a lot of their enjoyment. So what I do is write a story that you don't really know what's going to happen, so you're learning as the detective is learning and his cohorts as the plot progresses. And the number of people that are involved in it, even though the story is told by one person, so that holds everything together, but the number of people who are involved in the solution also is somewhat unusual. And then the detective himself is an interesting character with an interesting background, and I think that makes it enjoyable as well. So anyway, that's my approach to it.
Dennis Feece with us today. He joins us live here on our big program talking about his latest book, and he joins us live here on the telephone. So, Dennis, what's next for you as an author?
Well, I'm already working on a sequel to Love, Pride, and Murder, and I'm probably better than two-thirds of the way through it. I'm not really certain how much further it's going to go, but I know how it's going to end. So I am writing another one. I have a part-time job working. It's more of a, I guess it's a part-time job working at my local Catholic church, and so that certainly chews up part of my time. But the writing continues, and if there's enough interest in the first novel. The second novel is already in the process, so I'll have that published at some point, hopefully. But if there is success with those two, then I'll write a third one. It'll just follow. I sort of designed it with the idea that it could be a repeating sort of series.
We have got the author of Love, Pride, Murder, David Feece, with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. And so, David, talk to me a little bit about what are some of your goals for this book?
Well, I would like to sell a few copies. That would be a good thing. And the people who have read it, and for example, I was with a group of ladies here in town who have had a book club for a number of years, and they found out that I'd written the book, and they asked me if I would come to their meeting and sign some novels and whatnot, and talk to them about the book. And it just getting the questions and getting the interest, and they seemed to enjoy the idea of it, and that was satisfying for me. And I'd like to think that people can read it and, as I said, enjoy it. So that's really the only thing. There isn't any more to it than that.
David Feece with us today, Love, Pride, and Murder, and he joins us live here on our big program. His book is available on Amazon, and it is absolutely, absolutely amazing. So give us the profile of the typical reader who's going to love your book.
A typical reader who's going to love my book. Someone who has an imagination, someone who is familiar with the genre. I think they would appreciate the differences in this novel and some of the others that they've read. And the people that are not typically mystery writers, I think they would get sucked into it because it is sort of intriguing. It's one of those books that, and this isn't just me talking. Other people have told me who have read it that it is a page turner. In fact, one person read it. Because she knows me, and she was expecting it to be, okay, but nothing great. And she started reading it before she went to bed, thinking it would be a good way to go to sleep, I guess. And she couldn't put it down. She ended up staying up several hours past their bedtime just to finish the novel. So I think it's that kind of a book. It's written that way so that people can get into it and really enjoy it. There's nothing in it that will lull a reader into a kind of lethargy. I mean, it really is interesting. I talk about, I don't know if you're a sports fan or not, James, but I'm a big baseball fan, especially this time of year. And so I managed to weave in some of that into the novel. So, yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people would be interested in, different things, cars, and I'm also a sports car enthusiast, and I have managed to weave that into it. So a lot of other things, food and wine and different people, different kinds of people, plus the location in New Hampshire. The location in New Hampshire, it's a beautiful state. I lived there for a number of years, and the mountains and the picturesque little towns. And if you know New England at all, if you don't, then it's worth visiting. And the novel sort of takes you there. It all takes place in New Hampshire, and there are a lot of reflections on the state itself and the people who live there. So I think that's part of what's enjoyable, and I think those are the kinds of readers that will enjoy reading it.
Well, thank you, my friend. This has been an amazing interview. Thank you for making some time for us today. I look forward to chatting with you soon. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time.
Appreciate it. There he goes. That's the author of Love, Pride, and Murder, Dennis Feece. You joined us today here on our podcast.